Well, good morning there. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today is we get to study First Chronicles, chapter number 10, and we're starting to see getting into the kings of ancient Israel and stuff like that. And today we're going to just look at the end of the life of King Saul, the first king, and his sons, and also his armor bearer. We go through all that. It's a relatively short chapter. There's only about 14 verses. What I want to look at today, though, what I want to focus on is the last two verses. You know, Saul was doing great. He had David and helped him kill the Philistines, but now all of a sudden here is Saul getting beat up by the Philistines, and he falls on his own sword, and, you know, for fear that the Philistines would get him. So let's read this. Why did he die? So it says in verse 13, so Saul died for his unfaithfulness. He died for his unfaithfulness. Saul died for his unfaithfulness, which he had committed against the Lord, because he did not keep the word of the Lord, and also because he consulted a medium for guidance. But he did not inquire of the Lord. Therefore, he, capital H, God killed him and turned the kingdom over to David, the son of Jesse. So it seems a little powerful that, you know, just because the king, just because he went and, let's say he opened a horoscope, God killed him. But we need to understand God here. We need to take and understand. You see, God is jealous here. And I know what you're saying. Jealousy is a sin. Well, there is a godly jealousy, and then there's a sinful jealousy. And we're going to get into that in a little bit. But God calls himself a jealous God, and we see that here, that God is a jealous God. And I've gone ahead and written down a couple scriptures where we also see other places where we see God as a jealous God. In Exodus 20, verse 5, he calls himself a jealous God. Exodus 34:14, it said, the Lord, whose name is jealous. Deuteronomy 4:24, he calls himself a consuming fire, a jealous God. He says his jealousy is like fire. Deuteronomy 32:16 says they made him jealous. Deuteronomy 5:9 says, I am a jealous God. Joshua 24:14, he is a holy God. He is a jealous God. That right there ties holiness and jealousy together. That there is a holy jealousy. Psalm 79:5 says, will your jealousy burn me like fire? There it is, showing that the jealousy is actually, God's jealousy is a reaction to sin. And that's what God's consuming fire is. It's a reaction to sin. It's the only way he can react to sin, is by sending fire. So now we get to look at, we get to see that God is a jealous God. And there are two different types of jealousy. Sinful jealousy is rooted in covetousness. Sinful jealousy is rooted in your desire to have what somebody else wants. Okay? It's a desire for increasing yourself of material things, of something somebody else wants. That is a sinful jealousy. But there is a godly jealousy that comes out of love. And that is to want the best for somebody who is not living to their God-given purpose. That is a godly jealousy. Let's take it. I want to take a look at an example of that. The Apostle Paul wrote to the 2 Corinthians. He wrote a pretty hard letter to them in the 2 Corinthians here. And I want to take a look at chapter 11, verse 2. It says, for I am jealous for you with godly jealousy. For I have betrothed you to one husband, that I may present you as a chaste virgin to Christ. But I fear lest somehow, as the serpent deceived Eve by his craftiness, so your minds may be corrupted from the simplicity that is in Christ. You see, the Apostle Paul showed us that godly jealousy is something we're capable of. We are capable of having a jealousy. Now, let's take, for instance, let's say son, daughter, spouse, friend is not living up to their God-given potential, and they're not living to their destiny, and they're doing things like King Saul was, and they're just not living right. It's okay for you to be jealous for them for the things that God has for them. It's okay for you to tell them I'm jealous for you because you don't have what you should have. You aren't the person you're supposed to be. That's a godly jealousy. A godly jealousy is rooted in love, to see someone to get to their God-given predestination, to their God-given talents, to their God-given abilities, and to their God-given relationship with Christ. That's a godly jealousy. So Saul, he died because of God's jealousy. Folks, we have a responsibility. We have a responsibility with people that aren't living right to tell them, God's got so much more for you, and I want that for you. See, that's godly jealousy. I want what God has for you. I want you to have what God has for you. Is a godly jealousy. I pray that our hearts are softened to that more and more and more for the lost, more and more and more for our friends, our family, and those who don't know God. I pray that we have that jealousy to just want them to have God so much more. Have a super day, guys. I love you all.